And the big star over the weekend, as we welcome you back, Amal Shaw, Patrick Maher, of course, Dustin Sweetelson. And I mentioned Dustin Sweetelson because his cousin is going to join us now. He's Jordan Sarnoff, a Fairleigh Dickinson Director of Media Relations. I think we call it the SID. And you saw this kid blow up over the weekend, whether it was on social or being talked about on television. He was prominent in all the broadcasts as far as Fairleigh Dickinson, not just because of their upset over Purdue, but we have a new superstar, and he joins us now, Jordan Sarnoff. Hi, Jordan. How are you?
How's it going, Patrick? Mal, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
We're doing very well. There, we can throw up the tweet. Jordan Sarnoff is currently a junior at FDU, but he's already working as the director of athletic media relations for the program. So let's start there. Hackensack, Jersey. Where are you from originally, and how'd you get this gig so early?
So I'm originally from Fort Lee, and that's about a stone's throw from the university. And it really comes down to right place, right time. And I'm incredibly fortunate for the opportunity that I'm provided at FDU. And it's been an absolute hell of a ride so far. I think our tweet at the end of the game kind of captured that. To go from 4-22 to a couple possessions away from the Sweet 16 a year later, it's unbelievably special. And it's a real privilege to be here talking to you guys.
We appreciate you coming on immensely. It's great to be right across the river from New York City there across the GWB. And, you know, obviously you've done a great job of taking advantage. But I'll tell you what's most impressive for me, Patrick, I don't even really have a question. I'm just so impressed that he's an SID still in school. He has not graduated yet. This is
well, how did you get the gig? How'd you get that gig? Amal brings up a great point. How'd you turn this so quickly as a student into an SID job?
What it really came down to was when the opening happened, there were a lot of conversations about what role to take the position into. And you see now with organizations like COSIDA, which was the Sports Information Directors Association, they changed their name to College Sports Communicators because now that role is so much more than statistics and previews and recaps. Now it's creative storytelling, it's social media, it's media relations, and finding someone who is kind of a jack of all trades, knowing the statistics side, the media side, and of course the digital side is incredibly helpful. And I think what it came down to was our AD was a longtime SID at Northwestern and several other programs in the Northeast region. And he was at the Pro Bowl handling media, and he had a lot of trust in me. And once the opening happened, we had a conversation and they decided to give me a shot.
Jordan Sarnoff, Fairleigh Dickinson, Director of Media Relations. So a great run for the school from Hackensack, of course. Second time ever is 16 beats to 1 in Purdue, and then lose by 8, played well against Florida Atlantic. Walk us through. I mean, what does this mean on campus? What does it mean to you? Tobin Anderson, tell us a little something about the coach. We saw his great speech before the Purdue game where he said, we can go beat this team. Just walk us through the experience.
Yeah, it was insane. So we were the first team to clinch our automatic qualifier because we went to the NCAA tournament by way of winning our conference semifinal because Merrimack, who won the Northeast Conference, was ineligible for postseason play as a reclassifying Division II. But to make a long story short, the NEC Council of Presidents voted to allow them to participate in the conference tournament. So after we beat St. Francis U of Pennsylvania, we advanced to play Merrimack in the final, knowing we had already punched our ticket. So that media runway that typically goes from championship week to selection Sunday, and then like what we did was we went to the first 4 in Dayton, and then after that, obviously going to Columbus, ours was extended by about a week because we clinched so early. So it was really nonstop. And like Tobin is one of the best coaches I've worked with in terms of tell me where to be to do an interview. He's so happy to promote the university, promote the program, and he loves his team. Like these are 13 of the best student athletes you will meet anywhere in Division I men's basketball. And I'm sure you hear that from any media person or PR contact that you talk to. But it's unbelievably special what this means for the school. Our interim president actually drove out to Columbus the morning of the first round game and then went back to Jersey for an event and then flew back. He could only do the drive round trip once, and then he flew back for the second round game yesterday.
All right, Jordan, I'm taking over now. All right, so you're very humble.
Yeah, here's your cousin, Dustin
We're really
Sweetelson,
cousins.
Jordan.
Our grandmothers are sisters. Well, my grandmother's dead, so they're, you know.
R.I.P.
Anyway, but, Jordan, you're very humble. You won't really go into too many details about some of the things you've accomplished, so I'm going to brag on you for a minute here on national radio and on TV. You were voted one of the most influential people in North Jersey high school sports while you were in high school organizing things as an SID. You've done everything from announcing, PA announcing, all that stuff. But I want you to talk about your journey because just like these players in this tournament, so much of your story of getting seen on TV and Jamie Erdahl doing this piece on you was a culmination of your entire life working to this point. Like this, anyone who knows you knows what you're about. So as I lay that out there, explain how things went after you went to that Iron Eagle Bruce Beck camp that they mentioned in the piece, and then all of a sudden being a guy that literally Uncle Bill went around and went to a Met game with you and came back and said, it's insane. Jordan walks around Citi Field like he owns the place. He knows everyone in the Mets front office. So talk about your journey, about how it got you to this point and you just are capturing this moment here.
No, I appreciate you setting it up like that. So I think the story really goes back.
Thanks, cousin.
When I was 8 or 9 years old, I was actually hit in the eye with a ball at Mets batting practice. And it was Carlos Beltran and Angel Pagan. I don't remember who threw the ball and who missed the catch. But my dad and I were there early for batting practice. And I actually wrote a letter to Fred Wilpon, who at the time was the owner of the team. So that's where I was introduced to Carrie Kwok, Ethan Wilson, met Jay Horwitz. And I was like, you know what? I'd love to work in the front office. I was never good enough to play sports. And I loved the back end of everything. And so then I got the opportunity to volunteer with my local Little League district. That's kind of where I learned sponsorships and basically operations, trying to make a lot out of nothing. And I parlayed that into parlay. That's kind of funny considering this is VSiN. And went on board with high school sports with Fort Lee, my AD Mike Raftery, when I was with the Bridgman. I did that for 4 years, 4 awesome years, minus COVID, canceling my final spring season. And then getting the opportunity to jump on board with FDU as a senior in high school is when I started doing replay review for men's and women's basketball. And then they haven't been able to get rid of me since.
It's very impressive. So you're a young guy. You got 1 more year left in school. You've obviously hit the national stage. What's the goal here from now? What's next for you coming up?
I think what's next for me coming up is catching up on all the spring sports I've neglected. Because like once men's basketball makes a run to the postseason, it's drop everything and run. So I think I owe softball, women's bowling, and men's and women's tennis an apology because those are my spring sports. So gonna take it one day at a time.
Oh, before we say goodbye, and Jordan Sarnoff doing a great job here on Sharp Money, let's throw up the picture. Let's talk about the suit, bro, because the suit is GQ times 100. So here's my question. Did you go out and buy the suit, get it tailored specifically because you knew you were going to be on TV, or was that already in the closet because that's fresh?
So I bought that suit last year before my first ever game, which was at Seton Hall, and it was played at Prudential Center. I wore that suit for that game. I brought it out a few times since, and I wore it for the men's championship game at Merrimack. And I believe I wore that for the first 4 because I only brought 2 suits with me and like an extra sport coat. So I wore the blue suit for the first round game, and then I said I gotta go burgundy.
By the way,
listen, is it true you used to call Dustin and I's old show but hang up before we could pick up the phone on you? Is that true?
No, what would happen is I would get the control room. I'd say I'm Dustin's cousin. I would get Dustin at like 10:30, 10:45 at night saying there's no shot in hell I'm getting put on the air. And then he would hang up on me.
Well, listen, and Chris Willie could check it in. He loves it. He was an assistant SID at Miami, so he loves your story as well. Jordan Sarnoff, a great kid. You got a bright future, man. Congratulations on the success, and thanks for the time. We appreciate you, bro.
Thank you. Really appreciate you guys for having me on. Love you, Dustin.
There's love for the cousin. How about that? I haven't seen Dustin nervous.
You couldn't even say I love you too?
Nervous in a while.
Yeah, it's all right. By the way, I love the
But
Felica.
Dustin, hold on now. Dustin, let me bring you in quickly here. were you going to start crying when you asked Jordan the question? Because I thought I heard a shaky voice there. with your
No, I was
question.
just making sure I was telling the story so everyone understands what he worked for.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.